when Mr. Prime Minister Modi ji came to Israel on a political delegation, he brought with him this Sefer Torah, or this Torah scroll. Here we have not only Hollywood, but also Bollywood. We have stories of Jews from all over the world, including, of course, the Jewish community from India. So we know that Indian culture is incredibly diverse, but not only that, we also know that the Indian Jewish community and Indian Jewish history is incredibly diverse as well.
This museum is more than just a museum. Embark on a fascinating journey presenting the story of the Jewish people throughout history. This place represents all parts of the Jewish people and highlights the creative works and cultural riches of a variety of communities in different periods of history. A special thanks to Lindsay and the team at Anu Museum for giving me this opportunity to showcase this beautiful place. You'll be surprised to find some Indian Jewish exhibits as well. Yalla, let me take you on a journey, so sit back, relax, and enjoy this tour.
Hi everybody, welcome to Anu Museum of the Jewish People. My name is Lindsay Shapiro and I'm the Senior Coordinator of English Education here. Anu, which means we or us in Hebrew, is the largest Jewish museum in the world, and we're the only Jewish museum in the world that strives to tell the unique and ongoing story of the Jewish people. As we're going to see when we go upstairs, we have stories of Jews from all over the world, from today and from 2,000 years ago, from India to France to Spain and Morocco and Poland, and also obviously here in Israel. So I invite you to come with me upstairs, find some stories about places that you know but you didn't know the stories behind them, and find out a few more new things that you didn't know at all when we go upstairs.
When was this museum established?
This museum was established and opened in 1978, so we've been here for 46, now going on 47 years. We reopened the whole core exhibition in March of 2021, so we're still only about 3.5 years old.
Oh, sweet. Take me around.
Come with me. Hi everybody, welcome to the third floor of Anu Museum of the Jewish People. This floor is called the Mosaic, and here's where we see the mosaic of the Jewish world today and of the last 150 years. We get to see how Jews have been influential in cultures around them and also have been influenced by the places in which they live, and how their religion, culture, daily life is impacted by the modern world. The most important thing that we can show in this museum is that Anu is a place for all Jewish stories, from Israel, from abroad, from here and from there, and we have to make sure that everybody feels like their Jewish story is represented here.
All right, I see something Indian here. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what it is?
Yeah, so we talked about the third floor being all about Jewish culture from around the world, including theater and dance and cinema. Here we have not only Hollywood, but also Bollywood. We have stories of Jews from all over the world, including, of course, the Jewish community from India, specifically this actress, Rachel Sofer, who is also known as Arati Devi. In a film from 1933, she was from the Jewish community of Calcutta. We know that Jews were incredibly influential in creating Bollywood, largely because Jews are not only as people of the book, but people of the story. And our tradition tells us that we are obligated and encouraged to tell stories of who we are to other people.
Wait, I see a lot of instruments here. Let's talk about Jewish music. Can you tell us what Jewish music is?
It's a great question. So we don't have a specific definition of what Jewish music is. We just have examples of what is Jewish music, whether that's music in a Jewish language, like Judeo-Arabic or Hebrew or Yiddish, Ladino or Malayalam, or also English songs that have Jewish themes to them, or artists or musicians or singers that also happen to be Jewish. We have it from all over the place, from the Kiss guitar played by Gene Simmons, who's a lead singer of Kiss, who was born right here in Israel in Haifa, to another Jewish singer. Her name was Ofra Chaza. She was born here in Tel Aviv, not so far from the museum. She was born here in Israel to a Yemenite Jewish family, and you can see how she brought the influences of her culture from Yemen to her dress and also to her song. So we know that Indian culture is incredibly diverse, but not only that, we also know that the Indian Jewish community and Indian Jewish history is incredibly diverse as well. I want to welcome you to their installation here about Jewish women trailblazers, where we mark the incredible lives of Jewish women who have made a positive impact on the world around us. And I want to introduce you to one person in particular. Her name was Farha Flora Sasson. You can see her right there with the pink dress. Who was she? Now, she was born in Mumbai in 1859 to an Iraqi Jewish family. Now, you might ask yourself, how did Iraqi Jews get to India? For centuries, Jews have been living in Baghdad in Iraq, especially people like the Sasson family. Her name is Farha Flora Sasson. Now, her family, mainly her father, made their way from Baghdad to India in the 19th centuries, and they did so because they felt like they could safely be Jews in India, and that's where they settled. So Farha went on to become an incredibly successful female businesswoman and an incredible philanthropist, and donated lots of money to charitable causes.
All right, so in India, we do have a lot of coverings. And also in the Jewish culture, we have a lot of head coverings. So why don't you go ahead and explain?
Yeah, sure. So you might have been noticing that some Jews that you might see in person or in Israel or on social media or on television decide to wear certain types of head coverings. The ones that you're seeing here are pretty diverse and are chosen to be worn by different types of Jews or different groups of Jews. Largely men might choose to cover their heads with either a kippah in Hebrew or yarmulke in Yiddish, or a hat or a shtreimel or one of these other kippot, depending on the time of year or the time of the week. They do so as a sign of respect to God, to remind them that there's always some connection that's above them. Some Jewish men also decide to wear a head covering only when they're in a religious space, and outside on the street or at their place of work, they don't wear a head covering. So in addition to men, some Jewish women also decide to cover their hair or cover their heads in different ways. As you can see here, some of the different types of head coverings. Some are only worn for religious ceremonies or on certain holidays. Some are wigs and look exactly or very similar to normal hair, to regular hair. Others are quite diverse and pronounced that they're head coverings. Some Jewish women, decide to cover their hair after they get married as a sign of modesty, because they want to share their hair, which is quite a personal part of their body, for their husbands or for only their immediate family members. But some Jewish women also, like myself, choose not to cover their hair. It's really whatever's up to you. So welcome to the second floor. We were just on the third floor. We saw the Jewish world around us today, and mainly how diverse we are all around the world today. Now the question comes up, how did we get to so many different places? How did we get to Spain and Morocco and India and the United States and Argentina and France and China? How did we get there? What's our journey? And that's actually the name of the second floor. It's called the Masa, which is Hebrew for the journey. So here we have a wall that's called the Wall of Communities, and we've got 50 portraits of 50 Jews from 50 different countries around the world, some from modern times, some from 2,000 years ago, but that all tell a story. And specifically, I'm standing in front of Joseph Rabban, who this portrait is focused on a man that was living in India in the 10th century. He was a merchant who received a charter of rights engraved on copper plates from the ruler of Malabar in southern India, and basically it granted Jews a high social status, which at the time, 1,000 years ago, it wasn't common for Jews to be granted such a high social status. But here, especially in the 10th century in India, this was something that was possible. And also you can see here on our interactives, we have Jewish communities all over the world. You see all of those blue points are places where Jews do live / have lived. And of course, as we scroll around, we get to
India. Ooh.
And then if you want, you can scroll through the different time. We can see actually when Jews arrived in India around 55 CE, which is incredibly long and an incredibly old Jewish community.
Sure.
And then we can keep scrolling through. You can see there's lots of history there.
Oh, it's a timeline.
It's a timeline. Lots of good stuff on there, and goes all the way up until today.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So when Mr. Prime Minister Modi ji came to Israel on a political delegation, he brought with him this Sefer Torah, or this Torah scroll. And now you can see it's really beautiful. It's made out of gold and silver and gems decorated all around the side. Inside, if you were to open up the case, is a Torah scroll, which is the 5 books of Moses, an incredibly holy Jewish document that's written on parchment paper. It's this really big scroll that's wrapped up in there. He brought it with him. Now, this Sefer Torah, or Torah scroll, came from the Jewish community of Cochin. This Torah scroll, the case specifically, is from 1908, so it's over a century old, given to him by the Sephardic Jewish community of Cochin. Sephardic Jews, meaning Jews that came originally from Spain. We know that Jews came from Spain and Portugal after the Spanish Inquisition, and they made their way over to Cochin, where there was already an existing Jewish community, and they established a community there. They came to India because they knew they could safely be Jews there, and they had this incredible, beautiful Sefer Torah that we now have at the museum.
Isn't this a very cool menorah, or Chanukiah?
It is.
What's the story?
What's the story behind it? A Chanukiah, right? The 9-branch candelabra used by Jews to celebrate the holiday of Hanukkah, or the Festival of Lights. But this one looks pretty different. If you can notice, there's some very curious symbols. It was made by Manfred Anson, who is a German Holocaust survivor, who his entire life was obsessed with the Statue of Liberty as the symbol of freedom and hope for the future. So we use the Statue of Liberty right here, but if you get really close, you can see underneath each statue are elements of Jewish history, from the Exodus from Egypt, revolts against Rome, the establishment of the State of Israel, all these different elements lining up in chronological order from right to left, talking all about Jewish history and this hope that we have not only with the holiday of Hanukkah, but looking to the future. So we've seen that Jews look different, come from different places, have very diverse histories going in different places. Now comes the question, how are we the same? What are the things that unite us and bond us together as a people? And we can see that through texts, through Shabbat, through life cycle rituals, and also through a multifaceted connection to Israel. As you look around this floor, it's called the Brit, or the covenant. And these are the foundations of Jewish life that are continued for thousands of years and are still with Jews here in Israel and around the world today. We can see elements of holidays, of texts, of life cycle rituals as you go throughout this floor. And these are things that Jews would have been sharing for a very long time with one another. All right, now come here. I want to show you the oldest object that we have here at Anu, and that's in this glass case right here. It's called the Codex Sasson. Codex Sasson is the oldest and most complete Hebrew Bible in existence. It's around 1100 years old, and it's incredibly well kept. Only about 14 to 15 pages of it are missing. It was recently purchased for the museum in 2023 by Alfred Moses. It was the most expensive piece of Judaica ever purchased or sold. It was sold at Sotheby's for $38.1 million.
Whoa.
And we're incredibly honored to have it here. Now, if you get really close and you can see some of the text, you can see they're all written in Hebrew, along with notes at the top that dictate different arguments or even ways of pronouncing or copying the Hebrew. These Hebrew words that are in the codex that you're seeing right here from 1100 years ago are the exact same Hebrew words that Jews still read and write and chant out loud today. Nothing has changed. All right, so Jewish calendars are heavily based on the universe around us, and Jews track things based on the sun and the moon. So if you want, come on over here, we can see what your birthday is. You can see the Hebrew date because there's also a Hebrew calendar.
I am 20th September 1994.
Okay, September 1994.
I'm very old.
Confirmed.
Firm.
Okay.
Let's see.
Now you can see you were born on the 15th of Tishrei in the year
Okay.
5755. And Avital, you can see what the universe was looking like
Oh my god.
on the day that you were born. You might not remember it.
I might not, of course not.
Maybe you did.
Maybe I did. Because I am from the universe.
So in Jewish tradition, there are certain ages or years in somebody's life that we celebrate really big milestones. And we've got 4 of them here for you. And I'm going to take you from the very beginning, hopefully a long way up until the end.
Yes.
So at the beginning, we have, it's called a Kisei Eliyahu. It's the chair that somebody sits in when they're holding a baby, usually definitely a baby boy, when they're having their Brit Milah or circumcision ceremony that happens at 8 days old for a Jewish baby boy. Baby girls oftentimes have a naming ceremony. Then when a young person is 12 or 13 years old, they're considered to be an adult within the Jewish community, and they have a bar bat mitzvah, and that's where they read from the Torah from the first time. Then a few years later, hopefully they have a very happy wedding and they get married. And as is tradition, you might have seen this in person or on the movies, is tradition for the couple to step on a glass at the end of the wedding ceremony. And I don't know if you know why that is, but there's a very specific reason. 2,000 years ago, the Great Temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. It's not been repaired. You can see remnants in the Western Wall, but breaking a glass reminds us that while this is a very happy moment, our world is not complete until this temple is going to be rebuilt. It also reminds us that a marriage is very, very delicate, and if you break it, you can put the pieces back together, but you still might see the cracks. Now, hopefully there's a very, very long time between your wedding and your death, but these are stones that have something called the Mourner's Kaddish, which is a prayer for the dead. It's written all on there. And at Jewish cemeteries, people, instead of leaving flowers, which can disappear, they leave stones instead because they won't disappear. So here we're in a room with lots of different synagogue models from all around the world. Synagogues are Jewish houses of worship, but actually the Hebrew name of synagogue is Beit Knesset. It means house of gathering. It's a place where people gather together to pray, but also to socialize and study and learn and sometimes argue. So one of these synagogues, one of the 24 that we have here, is called the Pardisi Synagogue in Cochin. It was founded in 1568, so it's almost 500 years old, or the community is almost 500 years old. It was founded by Jews who fled from Spain during the Spanish Inquisition, found a safe place to live and be openly Jewish in India. This synagogue is still active today. You can still go and visit it and walk in, and you can see there's lots of different buildings here. There are a lot of different places to do different things. One thing I want to point out, if you want to take a really close look, is that there are 3 different clocks here. And I wonder if you can notice what types of numbers are being shown here.
Ooh, Roman numbers, right? And then there's another clock on the other
There's
side.
one right here.
Let's see.
It's one of the Indian languages, and on the inside you have a clock that has only
Can I see it?
Hebrew.
Or no?
Let's see. If you come
We're looking
right
for the
over
clock.
to get right on the other side, and all three of these clocks
Oh,
would have
right
been
there.
offered for the different types of people who were living
Hebrew.
in the area. And you can notice the
Ooh.
Hebrew one is only facing the inside of the synagogue, because that would have been for the Jewish community.
I think this was like built smartly,
Yeah.
right? And it's beautiful.
Beautiful. And if you want to take if you've got really great eyes, you can notice the tiles that are in the inside. All of the objects from this synagogue are from India except for the tiles. And I wonder if you can guess where those tiles are from.
Spain?
There's a connection with Spain there, but it was probably, they were brought over by Jews who spoke a similar language and were running trade routes, not necessarily in India, but in modern day China. And they brought these tiles over, and because they were so beautiful and so well known and such high quality, they used them to be part of their synagogue.
Sweet. Wait, am I still guessing or no?
China.
Oh, Oh,
China.
modern day China.
China, exactly. All right, so what's hanging above my head right now? It's a recreation of a synagogue ceiling that was in the town of Khodorov, today's Ukraine, built in the 17th century. Really, really beautiful. Take a look at all of the things that you see. You'll notice there are no human faces here because traditionally Jews do not show human faces in our prayer spaces, but there's a lot of different animals. A couple things I want you to take a look at. There are 12 different circles here at the very top. 12 different circles with some symbols that you might be asking yourself, wait a second, I've seen this before. It's the zodiac. Which is not a specifically Jewish tradition, but it's one that Jews have adapted both here in Israel and abroad. And the other thing I wanted you to look at is what would have been on the southeastern wall. You have lots of different buildings with two lions on either side. Now, maybe you might be thinking, what city is this supposed to be? Is it supposed to be Constantinople? Is it supposed to be Kiev or Moscow? It's actually supposed to be Jerusalem. So we see that Jews, even back in the 17th century, were praying towards Jerusalem. So Jerusalem and Israel have always been a part of Jewish tradition, not only since 1948, but for millennia before.
That's it for today. Hope I could take you time traveling through Jewish history. If you're planning to visit Israel, or if you're in Israel right now, I would highly recommend visiting this beautiful place for an experience that you will never forget. More information about the museum is in my description box, and I will see you next time. Bye.